Hello, welcome to Moonfire Magic. I have this tarot deck called the Goliath Tarot deck. I got lucky and found it at a half-price bookstore for $30. It is a black and white deck. So you can see these are some of the cards they have. Very, very beautiful designs on them. But I'm not really a big fan of using black and white cards. So, like the devil, that's a good one. But the reason I like black and white decks is because I can color them. So this is the one I'm starting to work on. It's Judgment. And it says the Transcendence. So I really like the polar bear, how fierce he is. He's almost like, look at this light coming down on me, judging me, because Judgment's all about karma. Biggest karma card in the tarot deck. It is you are reaping what you have sown. Judgment's also about releasing, surrendering everything up. And it's also judging to see where you are in your life. In life, we have cycles that we repeat over and over and over again. And every time we go through a cycle, if we pass Judgment and we get to the world card means it's completed and we get to level up. And if we get to Judgment and we haven't leveled up, then we get to go back and kind of repeat it and keep doing that until we learn the lesson to move on to the next one. So I just thought, while I was coloring here, I might just chat with you guys for a little bit since I am new to YouTube and just starting out my channel, which my channel is going to be, I don't know what it's going to exactly all be yet, but so far I'm focusing kind of on the tarot. I really love tarot. It's a big part of my life, and there's just so much that can be taken from it. And I also, in my playlist, have a pre-trip videos because I am a school bus driver in Washington State. And there's a big pre-trip inspection test that you have to pass when you're, if you want to drive a bus. And it's basically if the bus was sitting in your, I got two cards here. I just realized that. Do I? Oh no, just one. If the bus was sitting in your driveway and there was no mechanic, you basically have a tester and you have to sit there and tell them and demonstrate everything you would check on that bus, including brakes and the drive shaft and suspension and all kinds of lovely things that in real life we would never check. So I'm in the process of redoing pre-trip videos to help drivers that are training to take the test be able to pass it. So the first thing I chose on this card is, you can see I just decided to put yellow. Just felt like, boom, there's yellow, there's Judgment, right? Kind of like heavenly light coming down. This is my awesome Sharpie box. It's like $40 off Amazon. It's amazing. It literally is full of all the colors. And they pop in and out. And it stands up and it does this. It's like, I feel like it was just worth it alone just for the Sharpie, for the box. I love Sharpies, by the way. And that's all I use on these. I do Sharpies and then I don't seal them with anything. So they can get a little sticky, but Sharpies work really good on the black and white tarot decks. So I think if I look at this, I think I got most of the white. Yellow's a tough one. It's a lot easy to miss spots on yellow. Yeah, so I've been into tarot. Let's see, I just turned 39 about a week ago. And I think I got into tarot when I was about 24. So like maybe 15 years I've been doing this. And I ended up kind of getting into it because my birth mom, well, let me back that up a little bit. So in 1984, just get some scrap paper here, I was the third open adoption in the state of Washington. So what that kind of means is that back in the 80s, when kids and babies and such were adopted, the adoptions were closed. So if it was like a baby being adopted, they would not be told that they were adopted. The birth parents wanted nothing to do with it, and the records of the birth parents would be sealed. So later on in life, if the child did find out, either their parents told them or whatever, in some way figured out that they were adopted, they really didn't have a way to know who their birth parents were or to find them, because it's not like today where we have, all these tools on the internet to help. And I honestly can't imagine, because I was adopted before I was born, like I can't even imagine going years, thinking, I mean, my parents that raised me, that adopted me, are my parents regardless. But I can't imagine being lied to for, possibly all my life about that kind of thing. So in 1984, open adoptions were very rare. I was the third one in the state of Washington ever. And so that basically means that I've known as long as I can remember that I'm adopted. I know my birth mom. When I was 7, I got my first letter from her. And that's when we started writing letters back and forth. I'd get a phone call on Christmas and my birthday from her. She told me my birth dad was dead. And so, my mom and dad that adopted me are the ones that raised me. They're my mom and dad. So just one thing to know, I don't know, if you come across someone that's adopted, the most common phrase I hear would be like, oh, you're real parents. There are no real parents. I have birth parents that gave birth to me. Without them, I would not be here. They're not my parents, though. My birth mom, decided she couldn't raise me. And I am so glad that she gave me up for adoption. Because when I finally met her in person when I was 18, my mom claimed that my birth mom wasn't ready to meet me before then. Birth mom claimed that it was my mom. Whatever. I didn't care. I was just excited to meet her and my birth grandmother and my birth family. And I totally lost my train of thought. But yeah, so I met her, and when I met her, if she had raised me, we would have killed each other. So I was actually very grateful. I'm debating on this background right here. I kind of want to do red, because that's kind of a little bit of passion, a little bit of but then I don't really know if I want that with the yellow. So that's why I'm kind of, while I'm talking here, and I don't know what color yet, how I want to color the polar bear, because he's supposed to be white. Thinking. But anyway, so I was adopted, and in 1984, it was unheard of to have an open adoption. I was born in Seattle. I don't remember what hospital, but I guess they put me in a crib, and they separated me from all the other cribs with the babies, and instead of putting my name on my crib, they put adopted baby. My birth mom, I guess, threw a huge fit about that. And so, sorry, I have some more in here. So they ended up putting my name on the crib and moving it back with the others. But yeah, it was just, just not really heard of. So anyway, I met my birth mom when I was 18. Oh, there's one of my kitties. Kitty. This is the Erebus. Erebus means God of darkness. I have 2 kitties. I have Erebus and Shy Guy. Erebus is my witchy cat, and then Shy Guy tends to gravitate towards my child. Anyway, so I met her when I was 18, and we didn't really have a lot in common, and we had very strong personalities that kind of clashed a little bit. And so, we tried having a relationship for a little bit. Didn't really work out so great. So we kind of stopped talking for a while. And then when I met my ex-husband, just decided to try having a relationship with my birth mom again. And she was really into tarot cards. And I'm a very open-minded person. I love learning about all types of religions, all types of beliefs. I don't care what someone believes as long as it doesn't hurt anyone. And so her and I didn't really have much in common. And so I decided, okay, she likes tarot. I'll go ahead and learn it, and then we'll have something in common. Well, I had no idea how much learning tarot would kind of change a lot in my life. I did, in 6th grade, I had a friend that was did youth group at a church, and she invited me. And so I actually kind of got really in it. It was a Christian covenant church in Bellevue. And I kind of really got into the whole Christian church thing for a while. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I went to youth group every week and was in the choir, the youth group, the kids my age. We kind of had a choir. We had drama. I helped out at Sunday school. I did the Bible camp every summer, really put a lot of time there. Thought I was a Christian, although there was a lot of little things about the religion itself that didn't necessarily, I guess on an intuitive level, really make a lot of sense. And, my parents that adopted me, that I was raised, my mom and my dad. My dad was not a nice person. He was very abusive and verbally, more physically to my mom, verbally towards my mom and me. And he would ground me all the time for really no reason. And so I kind of had the "you can't ground me from God" excuse. And so I spent a lot of time in youth group, and when I wasn't at school or in youth group, when I was home, I would put on C89.5 techno, because that was the first station I found that did not have commercials. And my brain, I'm bipolar. Techno I find to be very, very calming. To a lot of people, it can be kind of sound like a bunch of noise, but for me, I find it very relaxing. So I'd come home and read books and listen to my techno and do the church thing. And then I went into high school and I met a group of friends, and they were into kind of witch type stuff. And through them, I discovered Wicca, which is an actual recognized world religion. And I kind of looked into it, and was definitely drawn to, I've always definitely been drawn to like kind of darker, like darker, not like evil, just like like Halloween, for instance, is like my favorite holiday, always has been, right? And I grew up next to this really, really old cemetery. And like I always found cemeteries interesting. I just always kind of had this intuitive pull to kind of metaphysical stuff. I was reading a fiction book. I think I was in high school, and it mentioned in the book, it had these characters, and it brought up the astral projection. It was like the first time I'd heard of it. And I remember going to the library and like trying to find a book on it, and no one had any idea what it was. And I was like, oh man. And then I got older, and then it started to come out, and yeah, I tried, but I can't really meditate, so it hasn't really worked out. But like I just have always been interested in it. So I got to high school and I made this group of friends, and through them kind of discovered Wicca. And actually Silver Raven Wolf is by far probably I haven't read a lot of like I guess witch type books, but she is by far my favorite. Like the first one I ever read was like I think Teenage Witch or Teen Witch. But she's actually, you can get it on Amazon. She's got this like really good book of shadows that just kind of has like everything, like all kinds of information. The thing with Wicca specifically, it's a very Mother Nature based religion. Like go out, love the earth. And it's not that I don't love the earth. I'm very grateful for the earth. But I'm also not that person that's going to go outside and pick up other people's trash. I'm not really an outdoor person. And so that part never really resonated with me. And as I kind of started studying that, going down that path, I kind of discovered pretty quickly, that spiritual paths are hard. Like Christianity, in a sense, is very easy. You go to church and they have a Bible and they basically tell you what to believe. There's not like a whole lot of thinking involved. There's not a lot of work involved in that. Where when you start going down a spiritual path, everything's kind of like trial and error. That's why instead of a Bible, right, witches have books of shadows. Like each witch has their own collection of what works for them. So I did so in middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I was at church like as much as I could be. Also my parents fought. I don't really remember most of it because at the age of 7, I would come home, and it's when I discovered techno, and I would put that on like full blast and just kind of read books, just chill in my room. I became a reader in about 3rd grade, because going into, I think, 2nd grade, I was kind of behind on reading. So I got to do this like little reading group at school, and I was the first one to kind of graduate from it. And then, man, I could not put books down after that. I loved reading. And looking back now with how my parents fought and how I grew up, it definitely was an escape. And honestly, it's a much better escape than substances, right? Drugs, alcohol, that such. Sports and reading, very, very positive ways to escape from things. Anyway, so I loved reading and then I actually read like probably every day. I used to spend 1 or 2 hours at night reading to get myself to fall asleep. And then I had my child, who's now 11, and I read until he was when he stopped nursing, about a month before he turned 2. That was when I kind of stopped reading. Being a mom, you don't really get a lot of free time, and now I'm a single mom, so I have even less free time. So, when I have free time, I want to do something like this. Yeah, I'm going to versus reading a book. So every now and again I get in a mood to read, but not very often. I will say my favorite book series of all time is the Dark Tower series from Stephen King. I've read through that whole thing twice. I'm currently on the last book for the third time. One thing I love about Kindle is you can, put a book on there and you can just read it, leave it, come back to it months, years later, it's still there. I swore I would never own a Kindle too, because I love books. I love smelling books. I love the old book smell. I love the new book smell. And then if it doesn't really smell, it means it's transitioning from new to old. But, I'm nursing a baby. I can't really nurse and do the book thing. So I got the Kindle. I just have the app on my phone. But I also do like real books. I'm trying to do this the right way. You can see everything's backwards here. Behind me, there's books. I have some. Yeah, I'm like totally just like randomly rambling and going different directions here. But I went through, when I got into high school, I got introduced to the Wicca thing, and I kind of did this back and forth. Like I would kind of start doing the witchy stuff, but it was like, man, doing spells is work. It's a lot of work. And I'd kind of get burned out and just kind of go back to church because it was easy. But deep down, the Christianity just never really resonated with me. There was a lot about it that I just didn't really find accurate. And I'm not saying that it's bad or wrong in any way, shape, or form. I don't care what your religion is, what you believe, as long as you're a kind person, you love one another, treat people good, because that's literally what every religion talks about, and that's really all that it's about. So when I got a little older, so I met my birth mom when I was 18, and, we hung out a couple times, and then it kind of faded out. And then when I got with my ex-husband, somehow my birth mom and I reestablished contact. And so I decided, we started trying to hang out, and she was really into tarot and some spiritual stuff. And so I was like, all right, I'm very open-minded. I love learning anything. So I was like, okay, I'll try tarot. And let me tell you, I love tarot and I love astrology, because your whole life, you will never ever know all of it. Astrology is constantly changing with what the planets are doing all the time and everything going on. And there's so many layers to learning birth charts and energies. And then tarot, every deck is different pictures and different energy. And so tarot and astrology are definitely my vibe. Here's what this looks like so far. I'm just not sure what I want to do with the actual polar bear, because I don't like leaving it white. I always like to put color on everything. I guess I could just do a light gray maybe. But then I could also leave it. Let's see, what color do I want to do down here? Probably the yellow. So I got into tarot with my birth mom, and we did learned off of the traditional Rider-Waite tarot deck and learned all the traditional meanings. And I noticed with her, it was you have card and you have Judgment. And it's the same, for her, it was the same meaning no matter what deck every time. And for me, I always wanted to be able to read more intuitively. But I'm a Virgo rising. And I'm a Gemini sun, and I have Gemini and Venus. So my whole chart is ruled by Mercury, which is the planet of thought and communication. So my brain moves 1,000,000 miles an hour, never stops. And it took me a long time. Like I would have a deck of cards, and if the words are on it, like I like this because it's really small, so I don't necessarily look at that right away, because if the words are on it, my brain will see the words and then go to connect it to the traditional meaning, and I feel like sometimes that would limit me. I used to cut words off of decks or like scratch them out, and then I kind of had like a spiritual experience couple years ago. That's a whole long story, but basically I came out of that. That's when I realized, okay, I'm a witch. I never called myself that until that experience, but I'm like, well, that's what I am. It is what it is. And I came out of that, and my intuition was just opened, and it's great because I can read cards now, and I know what the traditional meaning of them all are, but then I can also go in and like look at the picture and get the energy off it that way. And then I still want to be more psychic than I am, and like want to be able to, like, I watch the tarot readers that they're literally getting these downloads and somehow hearing or seeing some kind of spirit, whatever. Like, I want to get to that point. I know that astrology wise, if you have Pisces or Cancer in your chart, you're way more likely, and Scorpio, to be psychic. My only placement in the front of my chart that is water is Scorpio, but it's in Mars. So, and I have Earth and air. So it's a little bit harder for me, I think, for the psychic stuff. So I'm happy that I'm progressing, and these videos like are something I've really, really wanted to do. But yeah, I got into tarot, and I, learned all about karma and how the energy put out is going to come back to you. And I learned about taking responsibility for my actions. Like, it's just such a great tool. A lot of people, like want to go to tarot readers to find out what's, about their future. But the thing with tarot is you can't really predict the future. It can show you where you are right now. And then based on where you are right now, it can kind of show you like the immediate future if you keep going on that path. But if you change anything, it's going to change the outcome. So a lot of people that want readings, they want to hear, oh, I have this tall, dark, handsome stranger. That's not really tarot. So tarot is more about taking accountability and kind of making you aware of, the repetitive patterns and cycles and such in your life. And they give you guidance. They can give you guidance. I'm just looking at this polar bear. Show my polar bear. I like it. I don't know if I want to color him or leave him white. The reason I have issues with white is I was in 3rd grade. I remember my whole grade went into this big room, and this lady came, and we did this art project, and we didn't really have a lot of time to do it. And at the end of it, she was looking at our stuff, and she said, the thing that I notice the most, is that there's so many white spaces. It's amazing, like the little random things that stick with you, right? And so ever since then, really bothers me to have white in a picture. But I've been looking at my colors, and I just don't really feel anything jumping out at me. I guess I might try this light gray a little bit. Let me see what that looks like. See if it does anything. I mean, a little tiny bit. So yeah, I got into tarot. My birth mom and I do not speak currently. I wish we did. She's kind of a difficult person, and we would, during the relationship we did have, we'd just get to periods where, I don't know, we'd kind of annoy each other, I guess. And so, we'd just kind of stop talking for a little bit, and then eventually we'd reconnect. But when my son was 4, she didn't want to come to his birthday party for the second year in a row. And she kind of used the exact same excuse as she had used the year previously. And so I just, didn't talk to her for a while. And then when I tried to reconnect, she just wasn't interested. So the bummer part about it, though, is that she was very spiritual. And, at that point, I knew nothing about a lot of the spiritual stuff. And now that I'm spiritually activated, like, there's so many questions I have. But I may never get to ask her them, and that's okay. But she was a medium. She could see ghosts. She told me that the first time that ever happened, she was a college student in Seattle, and she was in her dorm room, and she had a cat, and she was kind of laying down on her stomach, kind of sleeping, and the cat was laying on her back, and all of a sudden the cat dug its claws into her, and all of the cat's hair stood up, and so she's thinking someone's broken in and is going to kill her, and so she's laying there not moving, and then after a little bit she realizes nothing's happening, and she sits up and she looks at the end of her bed, and she said there was a girl standing there in full 80s garb and just dissipated in front of her eyes. And so after that she was terrified, and she always would sleep with the light on, and she'd see things and stuff. And it's interesting because I've always been I want to see a ghost, but now that I'm older, I don't know if I really do. But that's I would rather be able to see them than channel them, because sometimes I channel energy that's definitely not my energy, but I don't always know it at the time. I find that a little bit harder. But yeah, so just random information about me. But she did say my birth dad was dead. That's what she had always said. And then randomly, I think 13 years ago now, she randomly found him on Facebook, and she connected us. I tried to have a relationship with him, but he was very immature, and so we didn't really have much in common. But he did reach out, I'm trying to think, last year during summer. He had almost died from COVID, and he wanted to meet his grandson that he had never met. And I never would hold my kid away from a grandparent or anyone that is a beneficial relationship to his life. And so we wanted to go down to Oregon last year and see them, and it just didn't work out. And then my birth dad passed away, sometime this year. I honestly don't remember. It was sometime in the last 6 months, I think. Him and I were not close at all. But after he passed away, my son and my ex-husband and I went down to Cave Junction, Oregon, where he lived, because his girlfriend, who's kind of like my stepmom, they've been together so long, lives. And it was cool. We got to go down and see her and hang out at the amazing property that she has. And my soul just felt so much at home there. But right now I'm in Kirkland, Washington, and that's where I'm going to be for a while. So, all right, random stories aside, that's what I decided. That's the finished card, and I think it turned out really good. I like it. I like the red in his mouth. It's almost because he looks angry. He looks like he's in anguish, and it's oh, what have you been doing? What have you been eating? Because some polar bears, the male polar bears are vicious. They are top of the food chain on land, and they eat their babies. So, I don't know what you think, but I think that turned out pretty good. All right. I am going to be coloring another one, but I'm going to switch to a new video. So thank you for hanging out, listening to me ramble, getting to know me a little better. And thank you for watching this is my second tarot kind of reading video on YouTube. All right, thanks for joining. Hopefully see you soon.